the game. The ultimate becomes like an entire screen. The champion is incredibly strong. So a lot of people, though, when you talk about it being OP, will be quick to point out, oh, well, there's answers to it. You can play Victor. You can play these different things that can outrange it and harass it in lane and, you know, scale alongside it. I want to see if anyone can really punish it. I don't know if Maple's going to be the guy to do it, because Maple is really not a lane-focused player.
Sure.
He is much more about how he moves around the map, how he actually facilitates his teammates, and I think he has been having a very good season quietly for TSM. He did bring out, you know, AP Galio yesterday. It was not in a win for them, I don't believe, but
No.
it's one of those things where I just don't think he's the guy to really punish a scaling pick in lane, right?
Yeah, like you said, Taliyah has been one of those big picks as well, which was something that Team Liquid took away right from straight out of the gate. It was the pick that he also had when they got that big upset over FlyQuest a couple weeks ago. And like you called out earlier, it is going to be the Zeri Lulu for Yeon and Core. And for longtime amateur and Challengers League fans, everyone knows that when Zeri first came out, Yeon had this big clip on social media and Twitter of him just popping off on Zeri and zooming around the map. Obviously, the champion has been toned down since those glory days, but this is a champion that Yeon is no stranger to and can perform on.
Well, that was the P-Shooter clip where he was like turbo behind and he's just doing 0 damage and it takes him like 10 minutes to kill them. But no one could catch him and he eventually kills the whole team. And he actually has a nearly 82% win rate on Zeri, most of that in Academy.
Yep.
The guy, you know, is very adept at the champion. I feel like, you know, this style does fit them more. Wait, his dog is named Tesla? Okay, okay, he has to clarify. After the inventor, not the car. He's like, come on, guys.
Nikola Tesla, I think.
Yeah, I think that is.
Well, neat.
Egg and avocado toast is undefeated. Well, he's not going to be able to afford a house. That's the only downside.
Damn. Yeah, egg stonks are massive these days. I remember I couldn't find a carton the other day, and you were like, I don't know if you made fun of me or you're just like, no, I got eggs over. You know, you need eggs.
No, man, it's actually been strange. There hasn't been a lot of eggs around. But Kindred getting banned out. It wasn't first round banned by Pyosik, but still has been banned, I think, all but one game against Team Liquid so far this split. So very much still getting respect, you know, for that champion that he is really well known for. That's his namesake. You know, Pyosik meaning Mark, I believe, in Korean.
Yep.
So, you know, that is where that does come from. But a couple of jungle bans have already been thrown his way, at least obviously in that first round. Kindred as well as the Wukong, trying to push him down that tier list a little bit. You already have some pretty good hyper carries though, so it's not like they really even need to have a carry jungler. I think he can just go towards Sejuani, play something kind of standard, boring, play frontline. You already have a hyperscaling AD and a hyperscaling mid laner.
Yeah.
So I don't really think he's that bothered in this situation that he can't actually play something like a Kindred.
Yeah.
Because I don't really feel like it fits into the comp that well anyway.
TSM also don't really have strong diving threats other than this Vi, but most of the time, if you are going to pair a Vi on your team, then you're going to need to have something either from your mid lane, like an Ahri, which can't be the case since Syndra's already locked in. So now you're looking towards Solo, but Solo has not really played any of diving champions in the past few games. It's mostly been tank duty, and this Nocturne, oh, that's huge.
Yeah, very interesting that they're actually going to grab the Nocturne for themselves. So I do think they're going to have to draft some sort of a dive buddy for him in the top lane. Obviously, later in the game, Haeri can be kind of going in there, throwing the ultimate in the back line with that Nocturne.
Yeah.
And on the other side, I'm actually really interested to see that it is going to be a Syndra coming out for Maple. You know, I talked about how he is not the lane dominant player, that is not his style. This is actually the first time he'll have played Syndra in the LCS, right? Career-wise, obviously he'll have some games on it. The guy has been playing since the very beginning.
Yep.
And does in fact have, you know, it's his fourth or fifth, actually fifth most played career-wide. So has 34 games played on it, but no games on it this split, no games on it last split, so no games in his time in the LCS. And is going to be playing this pick, which does require him to really bully his opponent. If you actually just trade farm against Aurelion Sol, you are getting nothing done on the Syndra. And actually, well, I mean, it's not a super tanky team for TL, but it is a relatively low damage composition on TSM. So if Turtle or Maple are having bad games, I think they are going to really struggle, because then all that happens, if you're playing essentially what becomes one threat, if Maple or WildTurtle are having a bad game, the carry that is fed is going to get Nocturne ulted in every single fight and just have, you know, Aurelion Sol throwing the ult down on your head. And even if you survive that, if you're not doing damage, the rest of your team is going to be getting shredded by the A-Soul, getting shredded by this area, and that's kind of that problem. because it is Sion, it is Karma, it is, you know, Vi. There's not going to be a lot of consistent damage coming out from those other roles here.
The big concern for me is that Aurelion Sol ultimate combo with Nocturne, because normally you can dodge it when you have
Blue
Vision.
shield. Lulu's also playing heal, so a little bit of extra damage is not going to be enough for Bugi, especially in the late game, to be able to actually 100-0 this guy. So that could definitely be a difficulty. You know, when I look at the composition though, I think a lot of the reason that you're actually playing this Vi is to focus on Haeri in the mid lane. When you're going to play Vi Syndra, you better hope you smack this Azael in mid lane, or you are going to have problems later on in the game.
Yep, TSM, a little bit of a clock. Team Liquid, quite the contrast in what we have obviously seen from their first round robin of play, where it has been so early game dominant.
Yep.
But as we discussed before, you know, time to flip the script here, try to practice scaling compositions here.
Well, and it is worth mentioning that they have had some scaling, right? Haeri had actually been playing almost only Azir. Like, that was his most played, so I don't think him going from Azir to Azael is that big of a change. It really does feel like largely it's just a bit of a shift in the bot lane away from the Lucian Nami, which has been so hard to execute on. They did win the one Lucian Sona game, but that was, you know, 1 out of 5 or 6 Lucian games that they have actually been able to take down.
Much more competitive, or the games that are much more competitive, you have to net them in. As we seems like audio issues have been resolved for all players on stage, so we resume the game. Crossing fingers that no other pauses happen.
Yep, audio issues are all good to go for now. And we'll have to see, you know, how this bot lane is going to go. WildTurtle playing PTA. It is kind of more that lane-focused look. If you can actually hit the Q, people can, you know, shift forward, try to actually pocket that PTA. It can be really powerful in the all-ins. And Chime is playing Comet and Ignite. You know, you talked about Chawi mentioning the focus on lane being the reason for WildTurtle coming in. So it makes sense that they are going to be going for this more lane-focused setup here with this 2v2. And there's kind of the two approaches with Ezreal. You can be playing these lanes where you're looking to roam, and you're looking to sit back and just kind of chill. But when you are playing Ezreal Karma, and especially with this rune setup, you're looking to hard shove, you're looking to non-stop poke, and make life difficult for your opponents. And, you know, the reason that it's so important to have this shove is that once you have your opponents under the tower there, all the melee minions, all the range minions are gone.
Yep.
Every time they step up to actually CS, it's just free fire for that poke. It makes it so easy to predict where they're going to be. So they have to either choose A, do I take the poke, or B, do I miss the CS? And it's kind of that lose-lose situation that you can put the Zeri Lulu in if you can dominate the show.
Yep, and then it's a domino effect as well, because the more pressure you put on the bot lane and the tower, the less freedom they have to be able to respond to any aggressive moves from Bugi as well. If he wants to invade into the bottom side, get some counter vision down, or get some counter jungling in as well against Pyosik. As already Pyosik clearing towards the top side, might be playing around Summit as Gnar into the Sion matchup. And usually the way this plays out, I mean, you always have the range advantage of being able to push him in, but the tank Sion gets, you know, if the Gnar is not snowballed, then, I mean, Sion's just going to start shrugging it off.
Yeah, absolutely. You can start to really just ignore that damage. You know, for Pyosik, I think, you know, as the Nocturne, you'll take ganks of opportunity. If someone is in a really bad spot or really overpushed, you can kind of show up behind them. You can maybe force a flash or maybe even kill them. But generally speaking, unless their opponents are really in a bad spot or you have to fix a wave, you just want to power farm. You want to get to 6 as fast as possible. You want to cycle your camps and really look to threaten with that ultimate. And then it's rinse and repeat. You're trying to, every single time your ulti is up, find a kill, immediately get it on the map, find that ultimate target, get something with that, then right back to farming and just kind of play that cycle. And the more closely you can do that, the better of a situation you're going to be in. Chime getting really low here, though. He has been taking the worst end of these trades. You know, Turtle, it feels like has been so focused on actually pushing the wave, and it's been kind of almost this support battle between Chime and Core on the side.
Yeah.
But Chime was using his shields on Turtle, and Core was using his shields on himself. So he was actually taking a lot of free damage there while he was hitting into Core's shields. So, you know, Core and Yeon, again, doing a good job in these 2v2s. That has been, I would say, one of Liquid's great strengths.
Does allow WildTurtle to get a back in, at least a tier and a long sword, so it's not the dream tier Sheen Mac. Probably would have had to lane for a little bit more longer.
It is also interesting because this is like the much less aggressive take, and if you're trying to play this lane to win it and not just kind of farm it out, you can just go straight Sheen, right? And that's what a lot of players will do, is they'll actually delay their tier for more of a spike in lane.
Yeah.
In this case, he's not going to do that. We'll see if Summit can get out of this one.
Waiting for the flash, comes through, Solo gets it. Summit is now playing without a flash, but as long as his hop cooldown is available, he should not be in danger from Bugi if he makes a return visit.
Yeah, the danger is going to be if he goes for a Q flash and if he can connect on that, right? Because Bugi didn't really waste much time. He goes up there, sure, he's a camp or two behind, but he's going to catch up to Pyosik pretty quickly as far as that farming does go, because his camps are actually spawned and available. And then you can look for that rinse and repeat where you've now forced Flash, you have Solo's Flash, you have Bugi's Flash. So what it is going to do at the very least is force Summit to play it more defensively. And generally, you have to kind of play aggressive in these matchups to really create leads. Summit is known for just destroying people in these 1v1s, especially when he gets his hand on Gnar. He is so adept at actually pushing the pace in these lanes.
Yeah.
But it does often mean exposing himself, and that's when he can fall prey to ganks.
I mean, this is what we knew him for back in last year's spring, just dominating lanes on Gnar, the Jace, and much like. And we know that people have been trying to capitalize on the aggressiveness that he would show as well.
Absolutely. And one change-up that I actually really liked that I haven't talked about yet from TL yesterday was Pyosik was top non-stop yesterday. This game, he's playing Nocturne. It's a bit of a different story. We'll see what ends up going with that first ulti. But he was constantly up towards top lane, covering Summit, looking for ganks for Summit, trying to put Summit in a position when he was playing that Gragas, and I believe it was into a Jax, into that situation where he could non-stop be pushing, be in the opponent's face, you know, always know that if the enemy jungler shows up, it's a 2v2. And if your top laner is already winning, if they're winning heavily, well, the 2v2 should be winning as well, right? So it felt like they were trying to change things up a little bit, and I did like that they were mixing that in, because while Summit does have a clear weakness, he also has a very defined strength, right? He is by far the best 1v1 solo laner in the league right now, it feels like, right? You know, he's able to create those massive, massive advantages that other people aren't often able to replicate.
And that was always the question with this roster for Team Liquid is, if you're going to go into this season with one of the best laners in the world in your top lane, why are you not playing around him? Why are you playing so much around bottom lane? I mean, it was cool to have Yeon and Core be the focus for a lot of the first round robin play from Team Liquid, but obviously it was starting to become a deficit where Summit is overextended 90% of the time, and no one is there to cover him.
Yeah, and I mean, sure, it's a bot lane meta, so, you know, that is why they're going to say that they were doing it. But if that's not getting you wins, play towards your team's strengths, you know, adjust and try to do some different things. So that is a change-up that we did see yesterday. We'll see where Pyosik wants to go here. I think it's pretty darn tough to actually dive solo, so I don't think we're even looking for that unless solo gets super chunked out, which of course we know is not happening right now. So it'll be interesting to see where he elects to actually go with this first ulti, because I do think that can dictate a lot of how your game is going to go sometimes on Nocturne.
Yeah.
You get out there on the map as soon as you hit 6. If you can get that first kill, it feels so good.
Pyosik is in the jungle right now. It's going to find Bugi. I believe Maple has first roam, and Chime is also here. So Pyosik, I don't even know if he can flash out of this one. He turns out the lights, but there's nowhere for him to go to. However, Haeri's trying to give him a window of exit, but it's still first blood over to Chime, and TSM punish on Pyosik being overextended.
Yeah, Pyosik's just walking such a dangerous route. You know, I think being up there, taking away the Krugs is absolutely fine, because his top laner is pushing up. When you walk down through the jungle over towards the Raptors,
that's disrespectful.
That is super disrespectful. It's like, where is Bugi going to be on the map? He's going to come up to those camps that are up on the top side, and you are walking towards mid lane, where of course Maple is going to have first move. So that is just really, really poor pathing from Pyosik that ends up getting himself killed. I talked about the importance of getting something with that first ulti. What did he get with it? First blood for the other team.
Yeah. I'm a little curious why Team Liquid wanted to pressure for this hero. They didn't have Smite, unless they were hoping that maybe they could get a miracle steal away from Bugi on the back end of it. But they rotated, I think, their support over just to cover it as well, as Haeri being pressured out of lane. This is going to force him out as well.
Yeah, I mean, Core had been up there. He was a little bit late on the roam trying to answer, I think, where Chime was going. So he was kind of already in the area. And I think they're trying to see, all right, is there any sort of a chance? Like, can we push them off this? Can we poke and prod? Are they getting too low? Did someone take a greedy base and now all of a sudden we have an extra member?
Yeah.
So I don't mind them taking a peek. It's not like they called up Yeon in a situation where they couldn't really do anything. So they were only kind of utilizing the members who were already around there on the map. So it's not something I mind, but this is really risky. And if Maple had ult, you are dead right there.
Yeah.
Haeri does know that he expend that ult on Pyosik to get the kill, so he will be able to kind of greed it out, stays alive, gets the wave, and shouldn't be losing too much, thankfully for him.
And this is a good time to check in, because we haven't really talked about TSM and what they needed to do. We highlighted a little bit at the beginning of the draft phase where it's like, hey, we know that Team Liquid have this massive scaling factor in both the Azael and this area later the game goes on. TSM, you need to press the gas early. They didn't really do that. They capitalized on a pick from Pyosik, and now TSM, the onus is on you to continue pressing on that accelerator.
Yeah, absolutely. They want to continue to create those leads. I do think as long as, you know, Maple and Turtle are both in a good spot, you know, their scaling is fine. You know, they are Sure, the carries don't scale as well, but they have a very strong front-to-back team fight. You're going to have this Sion that is going to create space for the Ezreal. So, yeah, the Ezreal, you're not going to expect him to put out as much DPS as a Zeri, but it's a lot easier for him to do damage because he's going to have a 4,000 HP solo in front of him. So I think that they're in a decent spot right now.
Yeah.
I do want to see them try to get things done, though. As soon as Maple has ult, as soon as Bugi has ult, you want to look to aggressively make plays onto Haeri, especially because Haeri is missing his flash now, and that should be a pretty easy look towards mid as long as they can set it up.
Bugi's on the bottom side of the map. There's some vision in the river, but if he can get through that around, that is an easy cease and desist into full Syndra, full combo. The other big thing, Essence Reaver being completed for WildTurtle. He's actually been up in CS, I think at least 20-25 for the past couple of minutes so far. So already a little bit of that lane dominance that TSM's coach Chime was looking for has already come through a bit.
Yeah, and the CS is going to even out quite a bit. He will lose most, if not all, of the wave to this crash, so he did go back for his own base. He's going to get one of those minions. So it is, just about a two-wave lead, which is pretty nice. But they are going up against, obviously, really strong duo in Core and Yeon, who are playing some really powerful scaling champions. So I think they're okay with their lead. It's something really to write home about just yet. But they're going to be looking up towards topside. A nice chunk onto Solo. They have him low enough that they could theoretically consider a dive, but I still think it would be somewhat risky.
Scary. Yeah.
Yeah. With no mini wave, they can go for it. I think if they still had minions and the W on cooldown there from Sion, I think you could maybe look then. But it just feels like, again, Pyosik up towards topside. He's playing around him a lot to try to cover him, to allow him to play aggressive in the 1v1. I think he's less looking for a dive and more looking to say, well, Bugi might be coming up here now.
Yeah, and anytime you're playing Nocturne, those first casts of Paranoia are so crucial because it's a longer cooldown than the later ranks, and they can be game-changing or they can feel absolutely like nothing. And because that first one was cast because he was caught out, there was no drive and tempo for the side of Team Liquid. So it's still TSM that are in control of this game because of this.
Yeah, it's pretty rough, right? And I think in that situation, he honestly should have just kind of taken the L, except he was going to die. Because there's 3 members around him, I don't really see how the Nocturne ult was ever going to get him out. Yeah, sure, he spell shields the Q from Bugi, but the buy ult is going to be there to follow up.
Yeah.
There's a Karma in the area, there's Maple coming, so it seemed like a really low percentage play to actually spend it. And as you say, it is a very long cooldown. Hasn't been able to really find anything so far. And TSM are extending, I think, their lead to a pretty respectable level here. It is 1.4K, not enormous, but you add in 2 dragons, you add in the pressure that is being created down here in this bot lane. This turret is really close to falling. And when they get that, you're going to be looking at a 2K lead here very, very quickly.
Yeah. At
only 13 minutes.
I would actually love to see the goal difference between WildTurtle and Yeon right now already.
Check for you. It's 5K to 4,200, so he's about 800 gold ahead.
I mean, but this is isolated 2v2, sometimes 1v1 with WildTurtle Chime versus Yeon and Core. There has been no jungle interference whatsoever, at least directly. There's been a couple of hovers from Pyosik and Bugi, but this is just a result of WildTurtle and Chime actually getting the first break all on their own.
Yeah. I mean, they did have that Herald, obviously, from Bugi, so coming down there, that contributed. But largely, it was the 2v2 pressure that they did create, so are deserving of the pressure for it. The credit goes to them. Drafting for this 2v2, pushing lane, going for the aggressive rune setup, PTA plus Ignite Comet. They wanted to create that advantage, and they were able to do so. So we'll see now, can they continue to push this forward? Because TL have changed up the lane assignments. They move Yeon over towards mid. They have Azael down on that bottom side looking to farm. And we'll have to see if Turtle and Chime can actually continue to push that pace. Can they threaten this top lane tower? Because if it does just kind of revert into a trading farm type state, TL are going to be feeling pretty good about that with the Zeri.
Yeah, it's an overall 2,000 gold lead for TSM just at the 14-minute mark. Turret plates have fallen off, and TSM are looming in the shadows. Summon is just going to back off for now, not be overextended, because there's 3 people on the top side of the map, and they're just going to continue this game of knocking out turrets one by one.
And I like how TSM is doing this. They're moving in support and jungle here together, clearing out vision, and they're saying, Summit, you've got to be scared of a dive, right? You've got to be scared of these situations. And they're trying to just cut out that kind of bastion of safety that he had with all these wards that were up in that top side. And you can see now, most of them have been cleared out in this area, right? It's nothing really there for Summit. So he does have to play a little bit more carefully. It may force him to actually give up that tower, or at the very least accept that's going to take some damage. But I do like this. As Summit goes back to base to complete his mythic, they're going to send him bot, and they're just going to fly Haeri top, because Haeri was actually already coming out of base and get up towards that top lane faster. And this way, you're not going to give up any farms.
Oh, Core sitting on a ward. actually, no, it was a fog of vision, but I guess TSM was able to catch him out while he was still by himself. That's another Rift Herald going over to TSM. I think it was going to be theirs anyway, but they just got a free kill on top of it too.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, another kill there for TSM, and they're playing a really good early game here. TL has been a very strong team when it comes to the early minutes of the game. You know, it's been more about their team fighting, about their mid game, their late game that has them the troubles, and you can see all this poke coming down on Haeri. So now he is going to have to get out of there. Bugi can actually drop Herald top. Should be another turret going TSM's way, and that lead is going to continue to grow. You know, TL on average at 15 plus almost 1,500 gold so far this split. So this is one of the better early game teams in the league that they're actually going up against. And TSM is running this game.
Yeah, and there has been little to no contest from Team Liquid whatsoever. There hasn't been any calls to say, okay, you know what? We can punish TSM here. We can turn around this fight. They've just been kind of been rolled over for the most of the game.
Well, and I've got to say, you know, where's Pyosik been? Right? Like, the only time you've really noticed him on your screen is when he was dying on that invade, right? He took a poor path, hasn't actually had an offensive ult the entire game, had the one defensive ult, so he has been pretty absent. It's not as though TL don't have options, and maybe they feel that they don't need to make any plays. Maybe they're not worried about the sign, and they're just saying, it doesn't actually matter. You know, we're going to have someone just pressuring inside lanes. We can play through him with this Nocturne behind him later on. Azael and Zeri just need to farm it up, and we're going to win late. And if that's how they believe, then I think it's respectable to say, all right, it's not about me. Just let them get farm. I'll just use my ult only for coverage.
Sure.
And okay. But that's not really my read on where the game is. You know, I am concerned about the advantage that TSM has created if I was in TL's shoes. Because if TSM got this next dragon, they're at Soul Point,
yeah.
Right? And you're going to have to really start to respect what they're doing. Their AD is on a much stronger point of the game right now. Their mid laner is at a much stronger point of the game right now. Their top laner is at a much stronger point of the game. Like, you don't really have any advantages going for you.
And normally it's understandable when your team is telling you, okay, yeah, we can't fight right now. Our AD hasn't completed their first item yet. It's like, okay, we want to wait for mythic spikes to come online first. But if you keep waiting for item spikes to come online, TSM are still going to get item spikes much faster than you are. Yeah. Right now, WildTurtle's on 2.
And I think they're just going to give up the dragon, because generally it feels like what teams do is they say, all right, once you've completed your extra item and it's just like pieces over top of you, that's when you'll look to fight. But with second item coming through for Ezreal, I don't know if they're going to be confident to actually go for it. It feels like they are trying to push in here, but Core is already chunked low. There's a Herald drop mid, so this is going to become very difficult for them to approach. They've lost control of mid, so mid tower is gone. And TSM can just allow it to continue walking forward. TL will have to go over there and answer, and now you can actually just start up the dragon here pretty much for free. So it's going to be a very difficult entry to the fight, I feel, for TL.
But they still want to fight. I mean, you have to play through bot. Solo has been forced out by Summon.
Mega's going to expire. This is the problem. With Mega expired, I really don't know how they win this.
Yeah, now they're just going to turn right onto Summon. He has Flash, but can he even get out? They turn out the lights with Paranoia. Summon still doesn't get out alive. Haeri has made his arrival. He looks for a huge Skies Descend, but there's not much damage follow-up from Team Liquid on back of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great ult. That was a 5-man ult, but your top laner's already dead. Your support's running away. Yeon can't go in there 1v5. Nocturne already used his ult, so there's nothing really to come through. And I just felt like it was a really ill-conceived fight in the first place from TL. I'm looking at the position, I'm looking at the map setup, I'm looking at the items. It seemed like a really hard one to win.
Yeah.
And then when Mega expires, you have no business being around there anymore, because your only chance to win that kind of a fight is through those X factors. And let's be honest, who's the X factor on TL? It's only Summit. You have no surprising hard engage. You've got scaling mid laner, scaling bot laner, no engage from your support. It basically had to be a crazy Mega Gnar or you can't win. And he is fully on vision, clearing a ward when Mega Gnar expires. So they know full well that Summit is in a bad spot. They know that Azael is mid lane because he showed to actually clear out the Herald.
Yeah.
So he can't reach either. So let's start the fight. If TL commit to it, they're committing to a 5v4. We get the kill before Haeri even arrives. And then sure, again, this is a great ultimate, but there's no tools left because your top laner is dead. Your jungler's already used his ulti, and Yeon cannot 1v5 on one item.
It just seems so ill-advised, but at the same time, you wonder if in comms, Team Liquid are just debating, guys, we have to fight for this dragon. Yeah, it's desperation, right? And then they're saying, oh, we need to fight this dragon. Okay, but how? And sometimes, you know, you can't just rush the second question. You need to figure out how, even if everyone is on the same page.
Yeah, I think that's difficulty, right? And I think that's one of the things that we have seen from TL in the games that they are struggling in, is that they don't necessarily have clear comms and clear setups on how they actually want to play the game. You know, it felt like they wanted to go towards this Nocturne, you know, pressure one of the carries. There's only 2 carries. If you can eliminate one from the game, that's great. But Pyosik really got nothing done at all so far this game, besides just kind of heavy farming. And now, when you're kind of behind the pace of the game here on the Nocturne, you have kind of 8 kills in the first 20 minutes. You stop really being a solo threat at all, right?
Yeah.
Like the carries are a full item ahead of you at this point. You're gonna start getting out levels. You're gonna start being in this situation where it's like, great, you ulted on the Ezreal, he shifted away and he's still 80% HP. Who cares, right? So TL are gonna have to find angles. They're gonna have to find ways to really kind of flip this game on its head. It's either gonna have to be through some incredible team fighting and carry performances from Yeon and Haeri, or it's gonna have to be Summit finds that perfect flank and gets the big Mega Gnar, right? And that alone is going to be a tough ask because, as we can see, there's no wards really kind of across the map here. You know, all the offensive vision is actually from your opponents. This is all TSM wards.
Yeah.
You know, there's one ward here for TL. There's one ward here for TL, right? But you're going to need to look for deep vision in areas like this, right, where he can actually come in and try to look for flanks, you know, on these fights around the dragon to try to stop this Sol. Because especially against Ezreal, you do not want to be giving up a 23-minute Infernal Sol. That is just so hard to deal with.
But the Muramon is stacked up, and I think he's going for the Eclipse as his mythic with that serrated dirt. Maybe Prowler's Call if he's, you know, feeling really Giga Chad, but the damage spikes for TSM are at a peak right now. I mean, obviously, it's still going to get better and better the later the game goes on, but it just feels so overwhelming at this point that TSM, they are chilling. They have their front and back set up. There hasn't been any strong flank attempts set up by Team Liquid. So TSM, they're just playing their own game right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think TL are going to have to hope that you can get Yeon to 2 items and, you know, not have 3 items basically on the other side, right? You want to have it 2 items versus 2 items in pieces. You know you're going to be behind, but if you can get to that sort of situation, you can be okay. Haeri is at that sort of spot right now. You know, comparable itemization to Maple. He's not going to finish another full item before this next dragon does come down. Turtle is actually getting kind of close to it. He's got 1,400 in pocket. Yeon actually has only 700, so he'll likely have his second item, but I think Turtle will probably be on 3 by the time this dragon spawns. But it's going to be a forced fight. They're going to have to go for it.
Okay, well, this is the first defensive paranoia we've seen onto a solo target, but unfortunately for Team Liquid, Maple is not by himself. Bugi goes golden with the stasis, and they turn around on back. Pyosik gets exploded. You know,
just kidding.
Solo just driving through saying, you cannot cross here.
This team all back says, just a prank, bro. Let me out. Just turns it around, puts it in reverse, gets out of there.
It's one of those situations like, guys, I'm coming. It's like,
we're gone.
Over.
Yeah, you're late.
Good.
Where's the train at?
Oh, maybe the fight isn't over. Haeri, all right, he's just gonna give the good old fadeaway breath of light as he gets on out of there.
Yeah, WildTurtle under some pressure. Nice little trade from Summit. Does chunk him low. But again, it is, you know, that kind of first real offensive ultimate, it felt like, from Pyosik this game. The other one at Dragon you can kind of count, but it was more, again, defensive, trying to save Summit.
Yeah.
This one, to me, felt like the first real true offensive one where they're looking for a pick. But Bugi just did a great job actually peeling for Maple. They didn't end up even getting the flash off him. He just pops the ghost, kites it back. They turn it around on the Nocturne. They force him out. You know, great usage of that stopwatch from Bugi to buy time. And then the rest of the TSM members start piling in. You spend all your resources to try to knock down this Syndra, and you don't have much left in the tank. And now push is going to come to shove here, and unfortunately Yeon did not get to his Navori. He didn't actually have time to buy it, so he is going to be on 1 item against 3 completed items for Turtle.
Yeah.
So this has got to be a steal. You've got to look for a steal.
They turn off the lights, but Sol is secured for TSM. Can Team Liquid even turn around this fight? They're onto the back line, but he's already golden, and WildTurtle's just kiting, hitting one after another, free firing like it's shooting fish in a barrel. TSM easily clean up Team Liquid, send Summon and Core packing.
Yeah, they just lose 1, but they get the Infernal Sol. Pyosik was going on a one-way trip there, wasn't even trying to go for the steal, they're trying to go for the fight, which really speaks to the desperate situation the TL were in, maybe hoping to try to get an ace, get a Baron off of that. But this basically seals the deal. You're 24 minutes in, it's a 5K gold lead. They're gonna go for the Baron as well. TL have no choice but to try. I mean, this is desperate times call for desperate measures. Probably not gonna work out, but we'll see what Summon can get done.
Oh, WildTurtle Arcane shifts forwards, and he's pumping out a lot of damage. Azael, he went Duskblade, so anytime he gets a kill or an assist, he's gonna go invisible. And he's gonna just Arcane shift over the wall so he can be safe while they're tanking down this Baron, and it is secured safely for TSM. Summon wants to see if he can capitalize on one. All right. Unfortunately, Chime, you don't get to go home with the boys. You're gonna have to take the long way home.
I love how Solo's zoning for him, zoning for him, zoning for him, zoning for him. He's like, all right, he's mega, I'm out, bro. You're on your own. We're not that good of friends.
Hey, you got away out from me, right?
Yeah.
Nah, dude, sorry.
I'm getting a little bit tired. I think I'm gonna head out. We can see this on one more time. Someone trying to come from the flank angle, but again, Mega Gnar's not even prepped. They're not even going for the steal. It's just gonna be an all-in play here onto Maple. Azael is able to follow it up pretty well, but you can see Bugi already peeling there, throws down the ulti, hits him with the Q to follow it up. And yeah, you are going to take down the Syndra, but the problem here is the 3-item Ezreal with the Infernal Soul free-firing the whole damn time. Solo just creating space, creating mayhem. And again, here we have it one more time, just back onto the Baron. You can't blame TL for trying something. They know it's such a low percentage play, but the game is toast if you give up the Baron.
Yep.
You know, Solo's trying to actually buy time for him to be able to get out with that recall because he didn't have flash. Let's see the reaction. Was there? Oh.
Bye, guys.
Oh, bye, guys. I'll see you at home.
Yeah, Jonathan knows.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's the perfect reaction. That's great. Yeah.
You already accept your fate. Just like, I guess one of us has to die here.
Yeah. Solo zoned as long as he could. Can't be blamed. Top laners take no responsibility for their support's deaths.
Yeah. I know we haven't really talked about it from their perspective, but this has honestly been such a nice game from TSM. I mean, a lot of the advantages you can argue that maybe Team Liquid gave them, but at least from the bottom side of the map, WildTurtle and Chime really earned their way, setting up that turret for success and getting that snowball in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, I think they played a really great game. They've been very resilient. They are going to try to look to go on a solo here, and they interrupt the ulti.
Okay, well, they scoop him back, and they know that Solo doesn't have... it doesn't even matter. He's too tanky, man.
All right, now you wave Solo.
Bye.
Bye.
Nice.
Oh, man, that is the state of the game right there in a nutshell. Ult in, you get him to half health, you realize, oh, we don't have anything left, do we? Oh, okay, time to leave. You know, they're just so far behind, and I think TSM has played a really strong game. Bot lane 2v2, they more than did their job. Solo is a rock on the top side. Yeah, you're gonna fall behind in farm to summit. Big deal. He's doing his job in these team fights. You know, Maple didn't create any monster advantage in the mid lane, but they didn't have to because they capitalized on the mistakes that TL made. He was there to absorb Pyosik's mistake in the jungle to help capitalize on that. Then he actually avoided that one ult that was used on him offensively. Stays alive, they turn that around. I think Bugi has been great in the team fights.
Yep.
Every single team fight, he's peeling the right targets. He's reacting very quickly. He's disrupting the engages. You know, Nocturne's ulting under your backline. Instead of ulting the Nocturne, which is what I think a lot of people would do, he ults the Aurelion Sol, so no follow-up damage can come through because the Nocturne isn't the damage. He actually can't kill anyone on one item and a Kindle gem at this point in the game. So he's just playing these fights out really, really intelligently, and it's been a pretty bulletproof game from TSM.
And it's quick adaptation too from Bugi because normally a lot of times you pick Vi, you see Zeri, you're like, okay, where's the Zeri? Where's the Zeri? I want to lock down her to prevent her from doing damage. But Yeon has been behind WildTurtle on the curve for most of the game, so he knows that. I mean, it's not going to be that much damage anyway, so you try to shut down the dragon from being able to get any damage off or look for those ultimates in the first place.
And Yeon can't get there, right? If Maple is that far back, the only person who can actually have backline access there is A, the Gnar, or B, the Azael. Gnar wasn't in Mega, so we don't care about him. So you literally only care about Haeri at that point. And I just think it's really quick thinking from Bugi. In every single fight, I feel like he's been choosing those appropriate targets. Solo up here on that top side. His job is just to slow him down because the cavalry is coming and Summit is far up in lane.
I don't think there's any point in burning a flash. He's just going to take the death valiantly. WildTurtle picks up his 5th kill of the game.
And you know what that means?
Yeah.
That means they just go straight to Elder because, sure, he's going to be respawning right about as it comes up, but he's got no TP. So it's actually a really costly death. So it likely means they can't actually even contest, and now Yeon is...
Oh, wild growth, and flashing the True Shot Barrage. That could have been deadly for him. Bugi still on the chase, looking for at least one straggler. Yeon is not going to get locked down, but it forces Core to flash away as well, and then turning him down. Look at the damage coming out from TSM. Yeon, he's just doing all that he can, but Haeri's already getting the hell out of there. He knows that it's doomed from this side of the stage. Yeon is going to skate on over, delays some time, but the Elder's still coming up in 17 seconds, and Team Liquid are not at all prepared to contest this Elder Dragon.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be him dying eventually here. Does end up going down. There's no shot they can contest this now. Boogie's just giving him the hands, man. This Vi has been everywhere. 9 out of 10 KP. You know, yes, you're going to look at this game, and I think you're going to remember Turtle kind of popping off on the Ezreal, having all the items, but I feel like Bugi has really played this game out incredibly well.
Sure.
Has been so much more impactful than his counterpart on the other side. And this is going to be Elder plus Sol. They can use that to get Baron, which is spawning in 30. And then that's triple mega buffs basically here for TSM.
Yep.
And the game is theirs to close out.
Well, might just try and write this one off in the books for TSM. Elder Dragon is on their side. Sol has been claimed. I do want to take a step back because we've given our due credit over to Bugi. But for anyone that has been watching WildTurtle in the Challengers League broadcast, everyone knows that WildTurtle has not been playing well. I mean, this has been probably one of his cleanest games of the year so far. He's just been damn consistent in these team fights. He played laning phase pretty darn well, especially above what we were used to seeing over in the Challengers League leading up to this point. So I know a lot of fans who are probably seeing WildTurtle debut on the first time, it's like, oh yeah, it's like back to normal, like nothing has changed. Like, no, this is a stark improvement from what we saw early in the year. So it's great for WildTurtle to play and show up when it matters most.
Yeah, it's nice to see him, you know, comfortable. Obviously has so much experience in the LCS. You know, he's at the top of leaderboards and LCS in so many stats because he's been playing around since almost the very beginning here. And TSM now will do their due diligence, grab up the Baron. They have the Sol, they have the Elder, they're grabbing the Baron, and then it's just well and truly time to push, right? Time to get something done here. You don't want to allow TL to kind of have any sort of chance to get back into this game. So push up, look to really close this one out, because even one Q from an Ezreal at this point on a 4-item Ezreal that's going to proc the Infernal Soul, that's going to proc the Elder Dragon burn, is going to be like half of your health, it feels like, as a carry. Like,
yeah.
This is going to be pretty darn impressive.
It is a front-loaded Mystic Shot ready to hit someone smack dab in the face. Even the Muramana and the Dust Blade is going to add just that little extra bit of potential overkill for someone to squish your targets on Team Liquid. But they're already pressing up their advantage into the base. Inhibitor turret number 1 is about to fall, and TSM are just making short work of these structures.
Yeah, I think TL is making the call, just don't fight until Elder expires. That means you're giving up at least 2 of these inhibs. We'll see if it's going to be even more, though, as now they're starting to try to get some damage out on Solo, but just not really going to matter. He's just going to shrug it off and turn around.
Someone is going to go Mega, but will he get a chance to do anything? No! The Elder Dragon smites him down! TSM now dealing with a 5-on-4 in the base of Team Liquid. They still have an empowered cannon minion to work with. But it looks like they're going to take their leave. They won't press their advantage. Or just waiting for this next minion wave. Just waiting for someone else from Team Liquid to overstep.
Yeah, Turtle just ulting that wave in top lane, trying to get that going, so the waves crashed here at the same time. Top and mid are pushing in. Solo's just going to take out the turrets.
Pyosik is going to turn out the lights. Are they going to pick a target? They go into Bugi, but I don't think that's going to get anything done. Huge skies descend from Haeri, but where's the damage follow-up? Yeon needs to be able to pump out damage as fast as possible. He go, oh my goodness, where did he go? WildTurtle pops him, and now TSM, they don't have to deal with the Zeri. They don't have to deal with the Gnar, so surely this game should be theirs to close out, but Team Liquid are going to make them fight for it. Chime is going to go golden as he holds Pyosik in line, flashing away. TSM have only dropped 1 in Bugi, but it's 2-on-4. Summon is respawn, but it's already too late. TSM will clean up this game.
TSM stomping Team Liquid here today. What a statement game from them against one of their big competitors here for the 6th and final playoff spot. You know, they are trying to get at least to that 9-win benchmark here to try to get into the playoffs themselves. Turtle having a really good game here on the Ezreal, but it's just honestly pretty bulletproof overall for TSM. It never really felt like TL got anything going in this one. They got a couple kills, but I mean, one is as the Nexus is dying. You know, one is in a 1-for-5 ace over by a dragon. Right? This was a very, very one-sided game where it just didn't feel like TL ever got off the floor. They never really got off the ground running, and TSM, very controlled, very methodical, good setups at the